Story fairies, come and bring stories to our story ring. An old man lived at the edge of the forest in a little log cabin. He loved to go for walks in his woods and would often spend all day long walking on the trails. He woke up this one morning and it was quite cold outside, but he decided to go for a walk anyway. He put on his warmest hat, his warm scarf, and a mitten on each hand. And then he called his doggie to come. And the two of them set off down the trail together, walking until the sun was higher up in the sky. They continued to walk, and as they walked, the old man became very warm, and he started to shed some of his layers. He took off his hat and stuck it in his pocket. Then he took off one of his mittens and put it in one of his back pockets, and he took off the other mitten and stuck it in his other back pocket. But he didn't notice that the mitten didn't get in his pocket all the way, and instead it fell to the forest floor. He and his dog continued to walk on down the trail, and he didn't realize he had left the mitten. And there it sat in the forest floor, and all was quiet. Until a little frog from a bog jumped out of his little muddy bog. And he hopped across the forest floor and started to feel chilly. That's when he found the mitten and thought it looked like a lovely place to warm up and take a nap. "Hello, this is Frog from the bog. Is there anyone inside this mitten?" No one answered, and so Frog from the bog climbed right in, curled up, and went to sleep. Everything was quiet again in the woods, until there was a little scampering sound, as a mouse came out of her little hollow log home and started scampering about the forest. She was looking for a place to stop and rest when she found the mitten. "Hello," she said. "Is there anyone inside this mitten? This is Squeak the mouse." "Why, yes, Frog from the bog is inside this mitten. Could you make some room for me?" So the frog squeezed a little this way, and he squeezed a little that way, and made enough room for the mouse to climb in and fall asleep. The forest was again quiet while the animals slept in the mitten, until a rabbit hopped out of his hole in the ground, and he started hopping all about the forest floor. He was looking for a place to stop and rest when he found the mitten. And he twitched his twitchy nose at the mitten. "Hello, is there anybody inside this mitten?" he asked. "Why, yes, Frog from the bog and Squeak the mouse are inside this mitten. Could you make some room for me?" So they squeezed a little this way, and they squeezed a little that way, and they made enough room for Fleetfoot the rabbit to hop in to the mitten. He curled up with the other animals, and they were all once again fast asleep. And the forest was quiet until a deer ran quickly out of her meadow home and into the forest. She was young and loved the feeling of running on her legs. But then soon she was also tired. She found the mitten. "Hello," she said. "This is Nimble the deer. Is there anyone inside this mitten?" "Why, yes, Squeak the mouse and Fleetfoot the rabbit and the Frog from the bog are inside this mitten. Could you make some room for me?" So they squeezed a little this way, and they squeezed a little that way, and they made just enough room for Nimble Deer to climb in. Soon she was fast asleep, and the forest was quiet once again, until the ground shook with the rumble-bumble of a bear. Rumble-bumble had woken up from their cave and their long nap, and they were looking for a new place to sleep. They rumbled and bumbled and walked across the forest floor until they came upon the Mitten. They thought the Mitten looked like a lovely place to rest. They stuck their bare nose inside the Mitten and said, "Hello, it's Rumble-bumble the bear. Is there anyone inside this Mitten?" "Why, yes, Frog from the bog, and Squeak the mouse, and Fleetfoot the rabbit, and Nimble the deer are inside this Mitten. Could you try to make some room for me?" "We can try," they said. They squeezed a little this way, and they squeezed a little that way, and they had just enough room left for Rumble-bumble to climb inside. And soon they all fell fast asleep. And there they were, sleeping in the Mitten, when across the forest the old man and his dog were walking. They began to turn back toward home as the day was coming to an end, and the old man began to feel chilly again. He was chilly enough that he thought he should put some of his layers back on. So he put on his warm hat, and he put on his scarf. And then he reached into one of his back pockets, and he put on his mitten. And he reached in his other back pocket, but he couldn't find his mitten anywhere. And that's when he realized he must have dropped it. So he said to his doggie, "Go down the trail and find my mitten, boy." So off the doggie went down the trail, running back the direction they came from, when he found the mitten. And he sniffed at the mitten, and then he let out a howl. And that sound woke up all the animals inside the mitten, and out they came. Rumble-bumble was the first out, and they made their way back to their cave for their long winter nap. Nimble the deer came out, and quickly, oh so quickly, returned to her meadow where she was from. It didn't take long for Fleetfoot the rabbit and the little mouse to follow, hopping back to Fleetfoot's hole in the ground, while the little mouse scampered back to her hollow log. The last one out was Frog from the bog, who was excited to return to his warm, muddy bog to rest. It was then that the old man got to that part of the trail and saw his mitten sitting there. He picked it up off the ground, dusted it off, and put it on. And then he and his doggie headed back home, and all was well in the world. Thank you, fire fairies, for giving us your light. That was the story of the mitten. I hope you enjoyed it.